So let's sum up the absurdity of the far right in one headline for everybody. This is from NPR. Florida House declines debate on assault rifles, calls porn a health risk. Wow. They did this in the same session. The same session. So students from the high school that just witnessed a massacre showed up at the State House for this to try to put pressure on the lawmakers. The lawmakers opened with prayer for the 17 victims. Then they declined to open debate on a bill that would ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And then the motion to debate the bill failed. So it's not like, okay, we're going to debate it, and then oops, it failed when we started debating it. They didn't even get to the point where they could debate it. So 36 lawmakers supported it, 71 voted no. And apparently, virtually all the people who voted no have an A rating from the NRA. Wow, I wonder why they voted no. So its merits were not considered. They discussed the issue for a grand total of 3 minutes. And then they went on to say, you know what's really dangerous? Porn is really dangerous. Isn't porn really dangerous? Yeah, I think porn is really dangerous. So I don't even know how to convey to the people who did this how colossally wrong they are and how stupid they are and how regular people look at them with complete and utter shock and contempt. In fact, there's an amazing picture that came out of the Florida State House. It's an unfortunate picture because it shows, I think these people are people who are not really familiar with how backwards our politics are. And so when they learned that, oh my goodness, they're not going to debate an assault weapons ban, but at the same time, they're going to say porn is a health hazard. Guns that are used for massacre on a regular basis, fine. Porn, giant health hazard. The faces of these people, it was like, we're officially living in the twilight. It's not even close. We're in the twilight zone. We're in the fucking twilight zone. That's where we are. There's no question about it. We're through the looking glass. You know, we feel like we're the last sane people on earth. And listen, this is the effect of money in politics. Because if you had a debate about the merits of the issues, we know what the conclusion would be because we have countless polls done on this. I mean, we covered them the other day, but there was a new one that came out. Did you know that universal background checks now polls at 97%? It was 93% after one of the previous massacres, I think Sandy Hook. Now it's 97%. You know who that 3% is that say, no, universal background checks are a bad idea? It's the leadership of the NRA and the gun makers, and they believe that because they're going to continue to make their money by selling a ridiculous number of guns, including to people who shouldn't have guns. Those are the only, that 3% is just people who flat out don't care and have lost their fucking minds, and the leadership of the NRA and the gun makers. And remember, I say the leadership of the NRA for a reason. When you poll the actual members of the NRA, they're a hell of a lot more reasonable than you would think. Because the members of the NRA are like, yeah, of course, universal background checks, duh. Republicans, over 80% of Republicans say, yes, universal background checks. As of right now, you have high-capacity magazine ban. It polls over 60%. This is not, if we lived in a country where we had our representatives representing us in what's supposed to be a constitutional republic and a representative democracy, we know what the result would be. But we don't have that, and we don't have that for a very specific reason. Because the NRA buys these politicians and makes it so that they won't do any gun reform. In fact, that's not true. They will do gun reform in the direction of loosening gun laws. loosening them. But they'll never do it in the direction of fixing our disastrous system. So, you can't come up with a more preposterous scenario. It almost sounds like this is something that'd be written in a dystopian, futuristic sci-fi novel about how people have utterly lost their minds and about how big money has totally taken over our politics. That's how this feels. It feels like just a broken country. And then how do you think other nations look at us when we have situations like this? I could barely wrap my mind around what we're doing here, but I can't imagine how somebody from Australia, for example, looks at us. I mean, in Australia, they had a mass shooting, I think it was in 1996. They did strict gun control. They haven't had a mass shooting since. Now, listen, I think you could debate the particulars of the Australian gun reform and say, hey, this portion goes too strong, or I don't like this part of it. Those are reasonable debates to have. But what's not a reasonable debate to have is, let's do absolutely nothing or even loosen gun regulations and then everything will be better. Well, this goes back to the main point I make in this debate all the time. If more guns equals more peace, which is the core argument that the NRA makes, then we'd already be the most peaceful country in the world. And we're not. We're the worst of the developed world. So I can't imagine what these fucking kids are going through. You see your friends get shot up and massacred right in front of your face. And then the state government goes on to say, no, the guns are fine. We're not going to do anything at all, anything to try to fix the situation. But, God damn it, you better not go look at some titties or some booties. You better not go look at naked people doing what is literally the most natural thing in the world, have sex. Because, that might bring you pleasure for a brief amount of time, and pleasure can be dangerous. What's not dangerous is seeing people get shot in the fucking face and bleed out on the ground in front of you. Not dangerous, that's your freedom. But it's not your freedom to enjoy the sexual aspect of life by yourself, not hurting anybody, in the privacy of your own bedroom or with a partner or whatever the case is. That's dangerous. Dangerous. We need you to be nice and healthy and not have your mind on sexual pleasure as you're getting shot in the face.